Trains stopped moving, milk spoiled in warehouses, cities ran out of food, no one starved, but the system proved it could fail. December 1946. The calendar showed December 25 and 26. Christmas had just passed. Families were traveling home. Soldiers recently discharged from World War II were crossing the country. Trains were packed. Highways were full. The storm began the day after Christmas. December 26. New York to North Dakota, the entire northern tier of the United States. The storm system was continental in scale. Meteorologists had never seen anything like it. The low-pressure system stretched 1,000 miles across. Rain fell first across the entire region. Temperatures were above freezing, 38 degrees in New York, 42 degrees in Chicago, 40 degrees in Philadelphia. Then the cold arrived from Canada. Arctic air swept south, not gradually, suddenly. Temperatures dropped 30 degrees in less than 24 hours. In some locations, 40 degrees in 12 hours. Rain froze on contact with every surface. Ice coated roads instantly. Rails became glass. Power lines accumulated ice an inch thick. Trees bent under the weight. Everything became glass. Roads, sidewalks, parking lots. Then snow arrived, not lake effect, not isolated bands, frontal snow, driven by a massive low-pressure system centered over the Great Lakes. The storm was 1,000 miles wide. 26 states were affected simultaneously. Ohio to Maine, Michigan to Virginia. 48 hours of continuous snowfall. No breaks. No bands. Continuous. Accumulation exceeded 30 inches in multiple major cities. New York City received 26.4 inches, a record. Chicago recorded 19 inches. Boston measured 18.5 inches. Philadelphia reported 16 inches. Pittsburgh recorded 21 inches. Highways closed across the entire region. Not one state, not one city. The entire northeastern quadrant of the nation. Railroads stopped operating. Every line, every route. Airports shut down completely. The storm hit infrastructure already strained to absolute capacity. This was post-war America. December 1946. The war had ended 16 months earlier. Rail capacity was at maximum. Troops were still being transported. Goods were moving at wartime levels. Civilian demand had exploded. No interstate highway system existed yet. Construction would not begin for another decade. No modern plowing technology. No salt spreaders. No front-end loaders. Cities depended entirely on trains for everything. Food deliveries, fuel shipments, medicine transport, mail service, consumer goods, everything moved by rail. Trains could not move. The system stopped. Snow removal technology in 1947 was primitive by any modern standard. Manual labor with shovels, small plows pulled by trucks, limited coordination between jurisdictions, no mutual aid agreements, no regional cooperation. Cities had crews, not fleets. Maybe 20 plows for an entire city, maybe 30. Plows were civilian trucks with blades bolted to the front, modified vehicles, not purpose-built equipment. Capacity was measured in hours per mile, not miles per hour. A plow could clear 1 mile in 2 hours under good conditions. Snow fell faster than removal capability. Much faster. Streets filled faster than they could be cleared. 2 inches per hour falling. 1 inch per hour cleared. The math was simple. Failure was guaranteed. Plows moved out at dawn, made initial progress, then bogged down in deepening drifts. Trucks lost traction. Blades hit ice underneath. Some plows were abandoned in place. Crews walked back. The snow buried abandoned plows overnight. Gone. Invisible until spring. Rail lines drifted shut across the Northeast and Midwest. Trains sat immobilized on tracks, engines running, going nowhere. Snowdrifts exceeded 15 feet along exposed sections. Railroad crews attempted to dig out manually with shovels. Hundreds of men. Thousands of man-hours. Wind refilled the cuts as fast as they dug. Progress reversed overnight. Every cut made during the day filled in at night. They dug the same sections twice, 3 times, 4 times. Highways became completely impassable. The Pennsylvania Turnpike closed for the first time in its 6-year history. All lanes, full length. The Turnpike was the most modern road in America. The engineering marvel of the 1940s, it closed anyway. Nothing could move on it. Vehicles were abandoned in place along its entire 160-mile route. Cars, trucks, buses. Some drivers stayed inside for 2 days waiting for rescue. Temperatures dropped below zero. Fuel ran out. Heat stopped. Rescue teams arrived on foot on snowshoes, pulling sleds with supplies, food, blankets, medical supplies. One car was not found until spring thaw in April. 4 months later, the occupants had left at some point during the storm. Their fate remained unknown. No bodies were ever found. They vanished into the blizzard. Wind speeds reached 50 miles per hour across the entire region. Sustained winds, not gusts, not brief peaks, sustained. For 48 hours, not hurricane force, but enough. Enough to lift snow that had already fallen. Enough to create ground blizzards even after snow stopped falling from clouds. The snow on the ground became airborne. Enough to erase roads and landmarks completely. Enough to make navigation impossible by any method. Pilots attempted visual flight between cities. Commercial flights, mail flights, military flights. Multiple planes crashed attempting to land in whiteout conditions. One crash in Pennsylvania, 2 dead. One crash in Ohio, 4 dead. One crash in New York, 3 dead. Emergency landings were made on highways and farm fields. Pilots had no choice. Fuel was running out. Visibility was zero. One commercial flight from Chicago to New York made an emergency landing on a highway outside Cleveland. 40 passengers, 4 crew. The landing was successful. No injuries, but drifts trapped the doors shut within minutes. They could not exit the aircraft. Snow accumulated against the fuselage. Passengers and crew spent 18 hours trapped inside a plane sitting on a highway. Rescue took nearly a full day, cold inside the cabin. No power, no heat. The military deployed tracked personnel carriers from army bases to reach stranded civilians. Half-tracks, armored vehicles. Some vehicles reached their targets successfully. Soldiers evacuated families. Others became stranded themselves. Tracks provided traction but not visibility. Drivers could not see. Vehicles went off roads, became stuck in ditches. Radio communication failed across large areas. Phone lines were down. Poles had fallen under ice weight. Miles of lines down. Cities lost contact with surrounding towns. Towns lost contact with each other. Isolation was complete and total across hundreds of miles. No one knew where help was needed most. No coordination was possible between jurisdictions. Rescue became random. Teams moved where they could access, not where need was greatest. They helped who they found, not who needed help most. Milk deliveries stopped across the entire Northeast. Every city, every town. Dairy farms had no refrigerated storage capacity in 1947. Refrigeration was rare, expensive. Most farms had none. Milk was a daily delivery product, produced daily, delivered daily, consumed daily. When trucks could not move, milk could not be stored. It spoiled within 24 hours. Farmers dumped thousands of gallons daily. Into fields, into ditches, into streams. Total waste. Economic devastation for farmers. Thousands of dollars lost, week after week. Produce rotted in warehouses and rail yards. Vegetables from California, fruit from Florida. Lettuce, oranges, apples, all rotting, no refrigeration, no transport, total loss. Bread could not be delivered to stores, bakeries produced bread, trucks could not deliver it, bread went stale, was discarded. Grocery stores ran low on stock. Shelves emptied gradually, not empty completely, but low enough to cause public concern. Lines formed outside stores. Rationing was discussed at city council meetings, not implemented but discussed. Plans were made. Hospitals received no supply shipments for multiple days, 4 days, 5 days, a week in some locations. Surgeries were delayed, not canceled, delayed. Critical supplies were rationed. Medicine ran low, not out, but low. Antibiotics, anesthesia, bandages, coal deliveries stopped. This was the primary heating fuel in 1947. Homes burned coal. Factories burned coal. Power plants burned coal. Everything ran on coal. Deliveries by truck and rail stopped. Homes ran low on coal supplies. Families rationed fuel carefully. 1 shovel per day instead of 3. Lower temperatures inside, wear coats indoors. Some homes ran out completely. No fuel, no heat. Temperatures inside dropped to freezing. Neighbors shared supplies. Communities pooled resources. No one froze to death from lack of heat, but the margin of safety disappeared entirely. Power plants ran low on coal stockpiles. Reserves dropped to 2-day supply. Then 1-day supply. Rolling blackouts were planned. Schedules were created. Neighborhoods were assigned times, not implemented but planned. Ready. Contingencies were prepared. The system operated on reserve capacity. Reserves were finite, measured in days. The storm lasted long enough to expose the absolute limit of the entire national system. Infrastructure did not collapse, but it reached capacity. The line between function and failure became clearly visible to everyone. Government officials saw it. Utility managers saw it. The public felt it. 55 people died during the blizzard. Official count. Likely more, not in one city, not in one state, not in one event, distributed across 26 states, scattered deaths, individual tragedies, heart attacks while shoveling snow. The most common cause, men over 50, exertion, cold, stress. One man in Pennsylvania died clearing his driveway, heart attack, age 52, found by his wife. Another in Ohio, age 58, found by neighbors. Another in Michigan, age 61. Found by his son, exposure while attempting to walk. The second most common cause, people trying to reach help, trying to reach stores, trying to reach family. One man in New York died walking to a store for supplies, exposure, hypothermia. Found 100 yards from his home, he almost made it back. Car accidents on ice before the heavy snow arrived. The early phase, when rain turned to ice, roads became glass, cars slid, crashed, multiple deaths. One family in New Jersey. Car went off a bridge, 3 dead, parents and child. One woman in Ohio died in her home when heating fuel ran out. Hypothermia inside her own house. She was elderly, alone, no family nearby, no neighbors checked, found days later. No single catastrophic event, no building collapse, no train derailment carrying passengers, no mass casualty incident, distributed mortality across space and time. Individual cases, isolated deaths. The storm killed steadily and quietly. The death toll accumulated gradually over 48 hours. Each case was isolated, individual, personal, but the pattern was clear across all affected states. The storm removed margins of safety, exposed weakness, old infrastructure, limited capacity, no redundancy in any system. Stress accumulated faster than response capability. The nation survived, the system held, barely. But the storm proved the system had hard limits, limits that could be reached, limits that could be exceeded. Limits that were almost exceeded. The margin was smaller than anyone realized, smaller than anyone wanted to admit. The nation was closer to collapse than the public knew. The 1947 blizzard entered the historical record as the storm that stopped the nation. Not one city, not one region, not one state, the entire transport system. The national supply chain, the connection between production and delivery across the entire country. Congress held hearings in January 1947. Testimony from transportation officials, from utility companies, from meteorologists. Recommendations were made. Congress authorized emergency funding for snow removal equipment in February 1947. Every northern state received allocations, millions of dollars. New plows, new trucks, new equipment. Highway expansion was accelerated in direct response to the blizzard. Existing plans were expedited. New plans were created. The interstate highway system was planned partially as a response to this storm. Eisenhower later cited it. The ability to move supplies during winter emergencies became a national security concern, a military concern, a defense concern. Cold War logistics. Rail networks were comprehensively reviewed by federal regulators. Backup capacity was mandated. Redundant routes were required. No single point of failure allowed. Alternative paths required. Snow became a federal concern, not a local problem, not a state problem, a federal problem, a national security issue. The storm proved that weather could disable an entire nation without destroying a single building. No cities burned. No bridges collapsed during the storm itself. No dams failed, but movement stopped. And movement was the foundation of modern society, the economy, the military, everything. The blizzard of 1947 demonstrated that paralysis was as dangerous as physical destruction, perhaps more dangerous. Destruction is visible. Paralysis is invisible until it's complete. The nation changed its entire approach to winter weather after 1947. Snow was elevated from nuisance to strategic threat, from inconvenience to national crisis. The blizzard proved the system could stop, and if it stopped long enough, it would fail completely.